Hey, everybody, this is Rita from the I Don't Like Murder podcast. I'm here with Jenny, my co host. Hey, Jenny.
Hi, Rita.
So today I'm going to tell the story of Hannah Payne and Kenneth Herring. This is a new case. It's actually still in the judicial system, and it's something that I wanted to bring to the podcast and to talk about in real time. So, are you ready to go, Jenny?
I'm ready.
Yay! So, this is about it's about asking the question, is this vigilante justice or is it a good Samaritan with a bad ending? So the story starts in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's involving a car accident. And what I have is really in my research uh, quite a few things, and we're going to talk about it today, but very little actual facts from the case because it's still in the trial process, in the preliminary trial process. So all of the witness statements, the majority of them have been locked up and sealed for the case. Any kind of public opinion that's been garnered from statements, have a lot of it comes from commentary, a few from interviews, but I want to talk about what happens when a case happens in real time on the news and then it spreads through social media. How does the media narrative start around it, or the commentary narrative, people on YouTube, social media, when they see it's this wild thing about they see the case, they make a judgment about what they see on the news. And because I've been researching this and following this for a couple of years, there's very little factual data out there, but there's a lot of content out there. And so I wanted to go over what we actually know that that were firsthand witnesses of the event. And then I want to talk about my personal bias because with Jenny, because I look at it and think, oh my goodness, why were decisions made in this case? And then we'll talk about it, and then I'm going to update us as we go through the podcast as things happen. The reason I'm bringing it up now because there was word that the trial was scheduled for the beginning of 2020, but because of COVID and the delays, it moved all the way through 2021. It's been on hold, and news came out that they're getting ready to possibly set a date for 2022. So I would like us to be part of that, but again, looking through the lens of the court of public opinion, the actual facts, and how the judicial system handles it. And maybe we'll get fancy enough, and if it's televised, if the trial is televised, we'll be able to get some bits and pieces of the case, because I really want to understand what the young woman who is being indicted for the murder of Mr. Herring, Kenneth Herring. So, okay, ready to go, Jenny?
Ready.
Okay, good. Okay, so Hannah Payne, Payne, is 21 years old, or was 21 at the time of the crime. She is from Georgia, and she's living in Atlanta, Georgia. No, I'm sorry, she may have been living in Fayetteville, but Georgia, we'll say the state of Georgia for the sake of the story. And then Kenneth Herring is the gentleman that has died as the result of the events that I will tell you about right now. So there is a handful of witness statements, and I'm going to go over what the witnesses told the police officers. And this information came from a police officer at the preliminary hearing of Hannah to decide if this case was going to go to trial or not. And so this is about all we know. And then there's a 911 call during the incident and at the end of the incident. So first, I'll go over that quickly. What happened? So busy afternoon traffic in town, and Hannah was in her car and waiting for either the stoplight or the stop sign or time to go, and she sees that a man in an SUV is going through the traffic and he hits another car. So she witnesses the accident, and Hannah actually calls 911 to say, I just saw somebody hit a car and I'm just letting you know, and I do have his license plate. And so she decided to stick around to see if there was any help needed as a witness. Then, so we get a statement from the gentleman who went up to, come to find out it was Kenneth Herring who was driving the car that hit the other car. A witness says at the original accident scene that Mr. Herring got out of his car and he looked disoriented and confused. And he walked around the entire car that he'd hit and he was mumbling, and he looked, not fully with it. And then Mr. Herring got into his car and he left. So we would call that a hit and run, because he didn't stay to get the licensing and, to do all that stuff. But the key thing is that the first witness who came up and said, "Are you okay?" said he looked disoriented, like something was off. So maybe he could have looked like he'd been drinking, maybe whatever, but the words were disoriented. So the witness says Mr. Herring just left. Now, police were on their way to the accident location, and very quickly after Mr. Herring drove away, the police arrived, and the witness said, yes, he looked disoriented. And the police said, okay, well, we'll figure this out. In the meantime, we go back to Hannah Payne. So Hannah Payne was still talking with the 911 operator and said, I've witnessed it, I've seen it, and now he's leaving the scene. And she said, I need to go and follow him. And then there's a 911 tape where she's saying, you don't understand, he's actually getting in his car and leaving. So she's narrating what the witness is telling the police. So she's saying to the 911 operator, I need to go and get him. And the 911 operator repeatedly says, ma'am, stay at the original scene. Don't leave. Be safe. Which reminds me, every single time I've ever had anything happen, whether it was I haven't had that many car things, but anytime dealing with police or something in, you call AAA to say, I've got a flat tire, it's overheated, and you're on the road. Anytime, I've always remembered someone says, are you safe? Are you safe where you're at right now? Because it kind of gets a priority of how quickly they're going to pick you up and or fix your tire. But in calling the non-emergency police to say something's going on, the first thing is like, do you feel safe? Do we need, is there something more here? But so that'll be a little bit later when we talk about the bias, but the 911 caller saying, ma'am, please stay there. Well, Hannah doesn't stay there. She takes it upon herself to follow Mr. Herring through all of this evening, late afternoon traffic. So go to the next witness, who says to the police, about a mile away from the original accident, Hannah finds the car and she cuts in front of Kenneth Herring's car and blocks him. So you have to imagine you're maybe 3 or 4 lanes, everybody's waiting for that next light to go, that there's Mr. Herring sitting there waiting to go, and then this truck pulls in front of his car and he can't go forward. So there's a witness that says, that was weird because we're all going home for traffic. Somebody just blocked a car and going in the wrong way. So I'm doing this, so the car's this way, right? So the car would be like this. When we're all going this way, you just blocked this car in a lane to go forward. The next witness, who happens to be a couple, who's a couple cars down, they see Hannah get out of her car, get out of the driver's side, and walk over to Mr. Herring's car, and the window was open. And what alarmed them and alerted them that something was odd besides blocking him on the road is she started striking Mr. Herring, and they could hear her say, get out of the car. And she's trying to open his car door, hitting him. And so again, this whole thing, now the story is we have bystander sees an accident, calls 911 with a license plate, then decides to follow the gentleman a mile, blocks him, then gets out of her car and then tries to pull him out of the car based on witness testimony. Then another witness said, what I saw was her hitting him, then and then hitting and yelling to get out of the car. But then I think the third witness said, I saw her striking with the left hand, holding a gun in her right hand, as if she was holding them up, like saying, listen, I got a gun, get out of the car.
I have a question, Rita.
Sure, of course.
Real quick. Does she have any military or police officer training?
I do not know, because
Okay.
it's really hard. I know she had a concealed carry permit and it was registered to her.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very difficult to find any actual info on her besides because there's two groups going, one advocating for her and other people who've decided her motives in the case. And that's like what I call the commentary. So I don't know. And what's what I hope to find out is that 21 seems like a really young person to me. She could have been military.
It just, to me, it just very much seems like somebody who shouldn't have had that training, or that has some kind of issues, but that has military training or police training, probably
like
military.
So,
but it just seems like almost like it triggered something that had happened, and she had that training.
So I know,
if that makes sense.
Reminds me when I was very young and I was dating a guy who was like a lead security guard, but he kind of acted like he was the general of the army or something. Yeah. So he'd always keep he'd always keep a cooler in his car, because if it's a hot day and somebody broke down, he would go behind the car and go, hey, ma'am, do you need some cold water or something to drink? Well, he had to stop because police said, stop doing that. Just stop pulling over on the freeway and helping people. It's not only that, you also could be causing more of a distraction, and that's weird. Yeah. But that was kind of, somebody, like you said, taking to that length. That's a question that, looking at the info, trying to find as much information about her, is that could that be somebody who just one of those like, I learned all this in, I guess if you're 21, it could be military or could be, ROTC or, and again, go, thinking about, we'll talk about it in a minute, what would we do, is that when you're a civilian still. Yeah. No matter what it kicks in. But that brings up a really good point. Just like, because when we get to the commentary part of this is where people are likening this case to other cases. And I'll tell you in a minute why. But I think I got to the third. So we've seen her. Now she has a gun in her hand and she's punching the guy. Somehow he gets out of the car. So there's no witness that says she pulled him out. But I guess I would at some point go, my car is blocked. I got to get away from this woman who has a gun on me and is punching me. Yeah. They take a few steps. He's trying to walk away, another witness says. Then what the next thing is, the original couples that get out of the car because they're blocked, the car's stopped and blocked in. They're saying, why is this young woman hitting? Because they can't see who's in the car yet. They just see this, somebody coming from the car, right, and punching. Now they're seeing the gun, but they also can see that there's police officers heading this way, and they're not far, so they're like a half a block. Yeah. So the wife says, let's go to the police officers, because they see the gun, and then he gets out of the car, and Mr. Herring starts walking towards them. They turn around real quick to go, we need to get the police because this is going to get bad. When they turn around, they hear the gunshot. So Then that's where other witnesses nearby said, yeah, all this stuff going on, but nobody yet, and this is as far as I can get with actual witness testimony, nobody yet is saying, I saw them struggle, I saw this, but the 911 call, no, I'm sorry, I think it's the third witness or the fourth witness, but third person said, after the gunshot, Hannah Payne went back to her car and changed her clothes. So that's interesting.
Weird. Yeah.
Then, but what she said, and I wrote this down, and what's a trip is when we get super fancy, we'll have my OBS up and we can play I can play the 911 call and just listen to it, because it's right now it's in bits and pieces, but she says that the witnesses is saying the 911 call, because she never turned off the phone. So since she left the original accident, she's been on the call with the same 911 operator, driving all the way down the road while the 911 operator keeps saying, ma'am, please go back. She leaves the phone in the car, but she's close enough at a car's length because she's blocked the guy in, that when she goes after the shooting, she goes back, changes her clothes, and then she says to the 911 operator that says that refuse not to follow her, oh my gosh. Oh, she said, the man just shot himself with my gun. So that's on the 911 tape. And that's kind of where all the witnesses, so the police were close by. So it's like all these things happen simultaneously. You got all these witnesses, you got the police at one incident, you got the guy saying that the original guy helping was saying the guy was disoriented. Then we throw in the Mr. Herring's wife said, yeah, he was diabetic. He was going in the direction of the hospital, the doctor's office. He could have had a low blood sugar episode. Then they do the toxicology. There's no alcohol or drugs in this man's system. So you start going, that disorientation and a low blood sugar, I could totally see where that could have been the cause of the accident.
Yeah.
Right. And so he could have just gone out of it. Well, that's part of it. Okay. So this is where everything gets, so that's pretty much the facts of the case. And then it's the aftermath. So she's arrested. And then she gets additional charges. She gets first arrested, and a couple months later, the DA comes back with, oh yeah, this is murder, this is reckless, this is a lot more charges. She does get out on bond, and she's been out on bond for about 1.5 years with an ankle bracelet and able to work. But after that, now it's a court of public opinion. So then we get Mr. Herring's wife, this beautiful woman who just said, what was she thinking? Right?
Why?
Right.
Why? And would you just walk up to someone's car in any situation and start punching them out of nowhere?
Right. And
regardless of her,
right.
Like, she shouldn't have had the gun out. She probably shouldn't have had the gun on her in this case. But like, just to walk up to a random person's car and start punching them.
Well, right. And that
seems insane.
Right. So wife comes out and said, because of course, Mr. Herring was 62 years old. When it comes to, so we have the wife who says, she actually used the words of why did she need to feel like she had to be a vigilante? Why did she have to go out and do it? So we got the vigilante angle. And then Hannah has a defense attorney, and Hannah, he came out and said she was being a good Samaritan. And then her family saying she was just doing what she thought was right. Now, what I wanted to talk about, and within a case that's going to keep unfolding once we start hearing the facts of the case through the trial, if we get through the trial, and this is what's really interesting about the court of public opinion via not only the media, and I keep saying commentary, and that's what I mean by us amateurs online and on social media. People who have big followings are taking little bits and pieces, and they've already assessed who's guilty and what happened. And the big thing in this case is Hannah is Caucasian, also known as white skinned, and Mr. Kenneth Herring is an African American man. And what the very first thing that came out was comparison to George Zimmerman with Trayvon Martin, and then the Aubrey case in Georgia, saying, oh, it's another white person who's killed a black person. So it was interesting, though. His wife said vigilante. And so the media is what's interesting, really interesting about this is that it's not all over 24/7, kind of like the other cases were. And it's really hard to find information. I can find 1-minute sound bites or 10 minutes of a preliminary hearing, but no documents, and almost everything I pull is somebody's opinion of what's going on. And it's all fed through a kind of almost 99% through a racial lens. I can't find any document that just said, this is what happened. Here are the witnesses cases. I had to go and pluck those off of just actual court preliminary hearings, which it's very minimal. So we have a racial component to the story, and the court of public opinion is this is a young woman who felt that she could just kill any black person she wanted. That's kind of the over dramatization of it. And then that's buttresses by a lot of commentary of it's when they say it's just like the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin case or the Aubrey case, that it's kind of a white on black crime.
Do you think that it's not getting attention because she's a woman? Do you think that might be part of it, that it was not a man, it wasn't a white man doing it, that it was a woman, a white woman?
Or it's a very, what's weird is usually the cases that have a lot of racial capital to the content, meaning it sells a lot of magazine covers and news, it doesn't seem to have the same. You don't see the attorneys, more the celebrity attorneys that you see, and you don't see a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff happening, which brings on a lot of media. It could just be, or it could just be because the case is kind of buttoned down, and it'll start to evolve when it goes to trial.
Yeah.
And that may be, there is a lot of like local news on it, but not national news. And that's what I want to talk about when I talk about my bias, because my first thing is look at it from the Good Samaritan. I've been in stop and go traffic forever. And I have, if you are in that car length where you go, you just saw that fender bender. My first instinct, my first step to be a Good Samaritan would be to go, is everybody okay? So because you feel like, okay, I would want someone, if they want to witness it, to see, is everybody okay? Yes. Do you need me to help in any way? Probably not, but that's Good Samaritan step number 2. You pulled off the side of the road, you offered your assistance, you asked if anybody was hurt, and then you were free to go, and you're like, okay, good. You guys got your insurance handled, that's great. If
I am totally the person, if it's a fender bender, that's like, oh, they got it, or 20 other people's gonna call.
Right.
Like if
right.
a lot of people witness something, I'm like, I'm just a bother at that point, which is probably wrong. And everyone else might be thinking the same thing. But I'm like, hey, if 200 people just saw this, then 195 people are going to report it. So I'm just a bother on the system at this point. It's how I feel.
Well,
So
when I got hit, I got rear-ended on the freeway and took forever to take pictures and exchange everything. I'm like, 10,000 people, not one person could say, hey, we saw it. But then of course, you know what, I could see justifying going, it's a rear ender. You're gonna, they hit you. We're good.
Yeah, if it's a wreck, that's one thing. But if it's a fender bender, then
right. Right. But so right.
People hit me from behind as a fender bender and we just drove off. Like we got out, we looked, we're like, oh, we're fine, just go. It's not worth waiting for the
so I totally agree. Most people, because you see him going, okay, they look fine, they're talking, they're exchanging, they're good. I don't need to go any less than 65 miles an hour. Thank you. I got things to do.
Exactly.
I'm just taking this into that's kind of just like the blasé, deal with it yourself. We've all been there. Nobody's hurt. I've made that assessment.
People stopping at my stuff and bothering me. Right.
But I'm kind of, so again, this is, I'm saying my own bias is hearing the defense attorney say she's being a good Samaritan. So I'm that's what I'm trying to discuss is good Samaritan would be, you see an accident. Is everybody okay? That's the first step.
Let me go punch the person that hit them.
No. Yeah, the second one is right. Second one is, do you need any help? And then you're told, yes, I need a witness, or no, I don't. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then all of a sudden you're going, oh, okay, now I got to put myself in the shoes of going, this gentleman looks disoriented and he's getting in the car. I'm not going to run after him because I'm a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to call the 911 to say, this guy's disoriented and I'm worried because he's getting in the car.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my good Samaritan job ends. Because,
or like,
right,
hey,
go,
guys,
oh, and by the way, he's
driving.
Right. He's slow enough that I can't, right. It's happening slow enough in time where I can recite to you his license plate number. Someone is going to get him because now, someone's disoriented on the road who just is leaving an accident.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so because I would, my personal life experience would say, what more could I do? Right. So what more can I do? So then that takes me to Hannah's choices, because Hannah made a choice. Because, if it's packed with people at this traffic, more than Hannah saw it.
Yeah.
But Hannah made the decision to say, I'm going to go and inject myself into it. And then when she saw that he was leaving, her decision was, let me follow him. And to the degree of got down a mile, tracked him down, blocked his car, punched him, pulled him out of the car. When he tried to walk away, something happened, which we don't know yet, if anyone actually saw that moment. Mm-hmm. Went back to her car after the gunshot went off, changed her clothes, and then said, he pulled the trigger on my gun and shot himself.
Yeah.
So that's what freaks me out about that, to go, wait, why didn't you tell her the rest of the stuff that happened in that moment? Because, and then to either think, so that, again, my bias is that if I got chosen as a jury to go, something's not adding up right here, right now, which is you had the fortitude and decided, while the 911 person is saying, don't do it. I'm 911. And she even says on the 911 call, there is no way I'm not going to follow him. She says it right out loud on the call. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to not follow this guy. Then to go, not only am I going to follow him, I'm going to block him. I'm going to bring my gun out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to demand he gets out of the car. And when he doesn't, I'm going to punch him until he does. Because I would see it on the other side of going, what if that happened to me? And what if somebody blocks me and then they're punching me in my shoulder and my face because, they're coming through my window and they have a gun? My first instinct would be to get away from that person. They're trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
wait, this is a good Samaritan on the street. This is a good Samaritan who's helping me,
I mean,
right?
yeah, that I think that there is a possibility that she thought to begin with, to the point of chasing him down, that she was doing the right thing.
Mhm.
Why she would choose to punch him in the face, I don't understand. I don't know. At that point, you're not a good Samaritan unless he's physically assaulting someone at that time, and that's how you need to get him to stop. But
Right.
for him sitting in his car, at that point, you have him blocked. Wait till the cops get there. It's not your job. It wasn't your job to do this much, but at this point, you've got him stopped. Just be done with it.
Right. And so this is why I want to follow the case in real time, because there's so many questions. Is how is she on bail? She killed somebody.
Maybe.
Oh, because maybe he did kill himself. Maybe he did pull the trigger. Maybe there is something to that, right?
Right. So what? And I think, I mean, obviously we don't have all the evidence, even, hopefully somebody saw what actually happened, which may or may not be, but I don't know. Is she charged with murder?
Yeah, there's a whole list. But again, I can only get it from news, like news write-ups, because like there's the first, the preliminary, and then the second, it was like reckless murder, like it wasn't first degree murder, but it was like second degree with a bunch of different things on it. And then the article just it was just from an article, and I really, because I've tried to find and pull up Georgia court records for it, and I probably, I should be able to get all of it, but she's like 8 or 9 charges tied to it.
Wow.
Starting from, just leaving the scene, and then I guess the interesting, a lot of interesting parts, but the fact that the police were within seconds already there to the original scene, and they were within a mile coming down, because I'm sure it was going all over the, that 911 call that she was in pursuit of the car. And also they didn't, the police didn't know, they know disoriented, that could mean anything. It could have a drunk driver, crazy person. But so I want us to follow the case to not only to dig through more things and then kind of update it as we go, and then to see how each side presents it. Because what's really being displayed is not good, not very positive for Hannah, right? The 911 call.
No, it looks really bad.
And then, the commentary. And so to go, okay, to give Hannah a fair trial, and it needs to be in Georgia, doesn't need to be national, but then it'll be, I kind of want to be ahead of it when it actually goes to trial. If the courts decide to televise it, if it decides to get picked up by national, it's going to be, to just have access to more info. But going back to it, to say, for me personally, and my bias, it's going to take a lot to see, how do you justify leaving that original scene and chasing him down and blocking the car? That just seems so, I want to say it's because Starsky and Hutch, that's from a very old TV show, but it just reminds me of, maybe it is a vigilante, but like, who just takes it upon themselves to just say, don't worry, we don't need the police, I'm here.
Hannah,
and maybe, that's right. But maybe you're right. And that'll be interesting to look for. It is like, was Hannah a cadet when she was young?
See,
obviously she's got a registered gun, so she knows how to use it.
Yeah, this to me has like some type of formal training of the military police form. Again, I could be wrong, but to me, it just seems like those are actions that would be taken by someone who had that training or was in the military. I'm assuming if she was a police officer, then that would have already come out by now. I can't imagine that it wouldn't. But also, unless there's a witness, I feel like this would also be very hard to prove that she did actually murder him, because punching someone in the face is entirely different than shooting someone. And if no one saw what happened, it's her word against no one's word.
Right.
So well, obviously there's probably more evidence there, but I feel like it's going to be hard to prove either way, unless like somebody actually saw.
Right. And like we talked about before, is there may be a lot of circumstantial, but no one actually saw it. Especially, again, I just have to put myself in, if he indeed, and we'll see what the case says, but say it was low blood sugar. I personally have had my sister, who was diabetic, who would get her blood sugar low all the time because she just wasn't taking care of it. And it's one of the oddest things to see for the first time, because they seem like they're there, but they're not. They're not. They'll answer really slow, and and then that's when you go, drink some orange juice, have a candy bar, your sugar is way too low. That's when she just had a hard time controlling it, and then it went the opposite direction. But low, because no sugar to the brain, your brain starts to go sleepy sleeps. But that's that when I put 2 and 2 together as a detective listening. He said he was diabetic and he possibly is on the way to the doctor. My sister got in 2 fender benders because her brain just checked out while she was driving.
Yeah.
And then she lost her license for 2 years because of it. But so I could totally put myself, again, and I wouldn't be on the jury, to go, I could totally see he's going, I probably should go to the doctor, thinking he's all with it, and then not be really mentally conscious, seeming like it. And then that whole thing of walking around the car, being disoriented, and then just getting back in the car. Right. And so I have way more sympathy, especially if it was a low blood sugar moment. And then he's got a crazy person punching him in the car. His mind may have not all put it together. But again, like my instinct would be, no matter who this is, I need to get away from them. And then then if all of a sudden I'm standing there and this person won't leave me alone, and I'm face to face and they have a gun in their hand, maybe the instinct is to pull that gun, and maybe her instinct was to pull the trigger. Who knows? It's just, I keep going back to the very beginning, which is, what I'm interested in is, what is it about you, Hannah, that made you feel like you could take it into your own hands? And then why is your defense you were being a good Samaritan? Because I don't see that.
Yeah, I think Good Samaritan ended after you made the phone call.
Right. And then
you chase somebody down, like that does not, but I still think it's going to be really hard to prove either way on that, like factually prove. I feel like my personal feeling is, circumstantially, she probably will get charged, because I feel like this is something that the emotions of the jury is going to get tied up into, right or wrong. And obviously she should be charged with something, but the murder part of it, I don't think that we'll probably never know the truth about that.
Right. Well, right. Unless they're right. So camera, or especially, and then it's going to be so hard too, even if there was a camera with people tussling, you never know. But what I'm going to do for this case, for our show, is I'm going to invest, if it's available, in the court documents, because it'll be interesting to bring back about different motions, because we've talked about before, juries only get to hear what what they argue for, that'll be admissible. Right. So what's admissible, and then what one side or the other will say it's too much. You don't need to say that 47 different ways, because and that's what the judge is there for. But going back and forth, but to see some of the motions, and there's some states that will allow you to get on. This case I could not pull. but to start to kind of pull the string on the motions to see like behind the scenes what's happening, to say what's going to go through and what's not, and then to get just really the charges, because you're right, is that murder is a pretty tough thing, and then it's going to be the way they present it. And if it's all storytelling, it's just what in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, being a good citizen, that's a bit of a stretch, unless there's other stuff happening, because the twist is in this whole case is that she left the original scene to chase him. And unless something, a big twist would be, well, she's an undercover cop and nobody knew it, and she felt this, but that would have come out. So yeah.
I think so.
But I just thought it'd be interesting to bring and to kind of take us all on the journey to go, let's take a case, instead of looking backwards, it's already completed, and see and kind of comment on what happened. Let's see if we can catch it as it's going, to go, this is what it's looking like in the court of public opinion. Here's what the documents are saying. And then maybe we can glimpse a little bit about what we'll never really know for sure. What was she thinking? What was in her mind? And then to look at, it might not be just literally a black and white issue. It may be a young woman who just, I don't know if it would have made a difference, the color of his skin, if she was going to leave it, because she right then is that, did she know? I mean, so yeah, so it's like, that may be an angle for some of the commentary. It might be an angle for some of the media stories, but somebody to go beyond the step of leaving the original crime scene to go chase him down and then try and pull him out of the car, would it matter who it was?
I don't know. I don't personally, I don't think so. I mean, I think if you're going to be racist, there's a lot of other different things you could do besides this. This seems like a fault. I mean, it may have been a factor, but even if it was a factor, I don't think that's the main factor.
Yeah, because that's a lot of people who give their viewpoint and write articles and have their YouTube channels. They're definitely taking it from that, and I'm looking at it more of, what could she be thinking? And if you start with that thought, if you have that capability, would it matter who it was driving the car? If you were determined to say, I'm going to make sure that, because at the end of the day, if it's a fender bender, this guy died over it. Right. So and for anyone who, again, that goes to my bias to go, I've been in a fender bender. It was inconvenient. It cost money. It was, extra time. And then just all that. But, but there could have been a circumstance, or I got rear-ended once by somebody who was not happy about it. And I'm thinking, why are you yelling at me? You hit me. But I never felt the need to, call the police, because out here, police don't come unless there's injury. But the biggest interesting thing is to see, well, I'm interested to see that defense. And then I'm interested to see if what's happening kind of in our kind of media sphere in the last few years is, it doesn't matter what the facts are, we're just going to assign it, which is happening now. And what I want us to do, Jenny and I are going to come out and go, this is what's actually happening in court. And that is listed as facts that people are swearing to. And that's what I'm trying to furiously pull witness statements. That's good. That would be a fact. That someone in that moment said, I saw this exactly happen. I heard this, the 911 tapes, kind of saying, we don't need to be part of the sensation. We kind of want to have a part of what our show is about, which is kind of going beyond not just the incident, but how we as a society look at it, how we view it, the jury system, all that stuff. For you, all you subscribers out there, you know what we do. But Jenny, thank you so much for letting me share this. I'm excited to have it part of our cachet of shows. Yes. And I'll bring it in the next change that occurs. Maybe next month I'll have more info and more changes of maybe a court date. That'd be awesome to share. But everyone, thank you for watching. We really enjoy having these discussions and these shows. We have many, many more lined up, and we're just getting started, getting better, a little fancier with some of the technical stuff that will be into the future. Then we won't have to, these will disappear years from now because believe me, if you've never done this before, every single time you do it, and then you have to edit it, you have to look at yourself for hours on end going, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But we really enjoy this. We really don't like murder, but we do love talking about that and exploring it. And we like Jenny because she's always awesome and she's funny, almost as funny as me, right, Jenny?
Almost.
Almost. So thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, tell us what you think, and thank you. We really enjoy having you on this conversation. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye, Jenny.
Bye.